Hi everyone, it's Lehman with Lace Covered Skies. I'm here today with I think it's part 11 of this mini Lapbook tutorial, and it is my design team project for Mixed Media Minnesota. So if you like this kit right here, which I've used throughout the different mini Lapbooks that I've made, some of the other images are right here. You can go ahead and find the link to this digital kit down below in the description box. But we're going to continue on and let's see how much we can get done today. So last time we had some things gluing, so let's go ahead and unveil those now. And it's been a few days, so these have been sitting here. All right, so we glued this pocket on, and then we glued these flip out pockets on, and we put this bag on. And we attached this envelope part to this part of the Lapbook. Next, we are going to, so I'm looking at one that's completed here. So we did that, we did this, and we did this. Now we're going to attach that whole piece onto the body of the Lapbook. So this whole piece is going to attach here. Now we need to make this piece right here. So let's go ahead and take some measurements. It's basically going to be the length of this, which if you made this with different measurements, you would go ahead and take a look at yours and see how long yours is. But for this one, I'll go ahead and measure in case you want to know my measurements. Actually, let me get this ruler. So this is just a plain piece of cardstock. It's a little bit off-white, and I inked around the entire thing. And it measures 8 1/4 by about 3 1/2. So 8 1/4 by about 3 1/2. And then I went ahead and I drew some half moon shapes here for the little notches. So we'll go ahead and cut them out now. Sometimes it's easier if you take like a vitamin bottle or a large glue bottle and you put it on here and you just trace around it. So let's go ahead and cut this. Let me make sure I'm in frame. Sometimes I don't know if I'm too zoomed in. Let me just zoom in only a little. So my window is open, so I hope it's not too loud. And then I will go ahead and ink where I just cut. And I believe I did not use vintage photo. I believe I used antique linen for the part that I've already inked. And I tend to like using this distress oxide better. I don't know where my ink dauber is though. But I do like using this ink for like a lighter paper. I cannot find my ink dauber. So I think what I'm gonna do is use Vintage Photo, but I'm gonna do it very lightly. So I'm just gonna lightly ink. And then we will be sewing this. So this is gonna have 3 lines sewn. And what I did was I opened it up in order, to sew this on. But you know what? I don't know if you remember a few videos back, but this was not sewn in. And I thought I forgot, but I did not forget. I left it unsewn because this needs to be sewn. So I cannot sew this in. We're gonna go ahead and glue. So let's go ahead and glue it in. Actually, I could do faux stitching, or not faux stitching. I'm gonna stitch it, but just on this so that it shows up. And I think that's gonna look a lot nicer. So I think we will do that. But everything kind of hinges on this piece right now. So let me see what other things I can do in between. All right, so this has a string. This gray piece has a string. We can go ahead and put the string. Let me just double check something. Okay, we're gonna take this string, which I think it should be the outside string. I pre-cut some. Okay, it's this one. All right, so what I'm gonna do is the same thing that I've done before. I am going to make a loose knot at the end of this string. And then I'm going to tie another knot to kind of stack onto that first knot and make it a bigger knot. And I'm going to do it one more time. And then I'm going to go ahead and get a needle. I want a sharp needle with a fairly large eye. Okay, I think it's this one. This one does not want to come out. Okay, there we go. And then we are going to thread this. that's the wrong needle. Yeah, I'm kind of, did I lose a needle? That would not be good. All right, so let's go ahead and thread this. And this is gonna need to go, so you have the big flap part. It's gonna be going on that like corner, like not corner, but like that fold. And it needs to go, let's see. It's gonna have to go, we're gonna put another closure right here. Let me make sure I'm working with the right one. Yeah. So we're gonna put another closure right here. So it's gonna have to go where this is kind of ending, or where it's beginning. So maybe around 2/3 of the way down. Just measure where you're gonna put your closure, and we're gonna thread it through the back. So I'm just gonna thread it and make sure I'm not catching on anything else. So let's flop this open, and it's gonna come up right through here. And once that is done, we are going to put the closure on. So you don't need to glue that, or you could if you want, but I didn't glue it. And because it's going to be sewn, well, I sewed some of these into journals and some I left out as like a little bonus for the journal. But we are going to make a little closure again. So I'm just taking out some eyelets, and I'm going to grab my crocodile, and let's go ahead and pick a closure. I think I want to go with something either pink or cream that will kind of blend in. I don't think I want yellow, or do I? That kind of looks, I kind of like how that looks. It's kind of whimsical. All right, so we're going to go ahead and actually ink it first. And then bend it up like I always do. This helps a lot, especially because I glued 3 pieces of cardstock together. So it is kind of thick. Then we're going to punch a hole in the middle. You've seen me do this many times. And we're going to pick an eyelet. I think I'm going to pick yellow, but the darker yellow. And we're going to punch a hole right here. So I'm going to kind of, it doesn't need to exactly match the string, but it should a little bit. So we're going to put that like around this row right here. So I am going to line it up with the other one so that they're going to be level with each other. And we are going to fasten it on there. All right, so we have those two. Now let's see what else I can do before stopping the camera to go to my sewing machine. All right, so see, we have all that. We're needing to do these three things: a hinge, this gray envelope, and these bunk bed pockets all kind of coincide. So we can't do anything about that yet. I think that's okay. This string. All right, so we need to deal with the closure. So for the closure, I took an X-Acto knife and I went to the main frame. So let's fasten this in here. I went to the main frame and I went to the right panel, and we are just going to make a little slot. And it's going to fit this string through it. So I had like 2 craft knives here. Here we go. All right. So I want it to go I think about right here. So we're going to go ahead and just make let's see. This is, let's try centimeters since it measures smaller. About 1.5 centimeters. So I am going to put it around here. And I'm going to make it 1.5 centimeters. Okay, make sure I'm not cutting anything important on the other side. So I'm making sure that I'm going close enough to the edge. It's going to be 1.5 centimeters. I'm really terrible with the craft knife. And it's better to make it a little bit smaller, because you can always make it bigger, but you can always correct it to cut it a little bigger. But you can't correct it to cut it smaller. All right. Then it's a matter of threading that ribbon through. So I am going to go ahead and thread it through here. We're going to thread it from the front to the back. All right, so there's the closure. And I think, let me just make sure. I think everything that's left to do is revolving around these pieces. So actually, we can do one more thing. We are going to sew one of the panels on. Glue. So this is the side. Oh, we need to make a little closure for this. So let's go ahead and do that now. Okay. So I am going to do something, I like that, a light pink. I'm gonna ink it. And then I am going to kind of bend the edges up a little bit. Punch the hole. And punch this hole. And then I'm going to apply this eyelet on. Okay. So there we have that. Now we need the string for that. So the string for this is going to be coming through the back into the front. So what I actually did was, let me see if I have like a really small one. To reinforce it. Right, I don't have a small patterned one, so we're going to reinforce it from the back. And I'll show you how we do that. But first, we need to see if I can find all these strings are looking the same. I don't think it needs to be, oh, this is waxed thread from when I was sewing in my signatures. I thought I had another string, like crochet thread. All right, so this piece is going to go from behind here up to here to fasten. So I'm just gonna eyeball it. We can always make it shorter. And again, I'm tying a little knot. at the very end. And then I'm going to stack 2 more knots on top of that. All right, so that's 3 knots. And then we're going to take our needle and we're just going to like sew it from the back to the front. So I think I'm gonna eyeball it like this. I'm just gonna pull this through here. Let me see how I need to do this. So I'm putting this little circle in before. It's like sewing in a sequin kind of, but easier. So I'm just pulling it through. All right, now let's put this away before we lose it. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue beneath this. Let me zoom in for this part. So I'm just putting glue to hold this little circle down. And while we wait for the glue, let's put these things away. All right, so I think we're almost done. If you followed through all these videos, thank you so much. I know it's been a long journey. But if you do make this, I hope you will tag me on Instagram. I would love to see how yours turned out. All right, but I am going to go ahead and end the video here because I'm going to go off camera and sew. I'm going to faux sew. So I'm just sewing on here just to put the thread lines on. I'm not fastening it on. But if you haven't sewn this piece of fabric on and you want to sew it on here, you can just totally sew a line down this way, all the way across. It's not going to interfere with anything in the front, but it's going to help sew the fabric. So you're going to hold the fabric under there and you're going to sew like this, and then one line, and then this line in the middle, you have to sew it beforehand because you don't want to close this fabric up. So what you're going to do is take the piece and sew a line across here, and then once that is sewn, you'll then apply it on here and sew all the way around. That way it's going to hold this front piece down, but it's going to hold the fabric down. Well, it's going to hold the fabric down like this. And then you need to make this line first. I hope that wasn't too confusing. But you know what? The easier way to do it is sew the fabric on and then put your thread lines on here and then just glue it on, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go off camera, do that, come back on, and we are going to finally conclude this mini lapbook. But thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you next time. Bye everyone.